Chapter 4. The life, vigor, and comfort of our spiritual life depend much on our mortification of sin. The last principle I shall insist on, omitting first the necessity of mortification unto life, and secondly the certainty of life upon mortification, is that the life, vigor, and comfort of our spiritual life depend much on our mortification of sin. Strength and comfort and power and peace in our walking with God are the things of our desires. Were any of us asked seriously what it is that troubles us, we must refer it to one of these heads. Either we want strength or power, vigor and life in our obedience, in our walking with God, or we want peace, comfort, and consolation therein. Whatever it is that may befall a believer that does not belong to one of these two heads does not deserve to be mentioned in the days of our complaints. Now all these do much depend on a constant course of mortification, about which observe. Section heading. Life, vigor, and comfort are not necessarily connected to mortification. I do not say they proceed from it, as though they were necessarily tied to it. A man may be carried on in a constant course of mortification all his days, and yet perhaps never enjoy a good day of peace and consolation. So it was with Heman, Psalm 88. His life was a life of perpetual mortification and walking with God, yet terrors and wounds were his portion all his days. But God singled out Heman, a choice friend, to make him an example to them that afterwards should be in distress. Can you complain if it be no otherwise with you than it was with Heman, that eminent servant of God? And this shall be his praise to the end of the world. God makes it his prerogative to speak peace and consolation. Isaiah 57, verses 18 to 19. I will do that work, says God. I will comfort him. Verse 18. But how? By an immediate work of the new creation. I created, says God, in verse 19. The use of means for the obtaining of peace is ours. The bestowing of it is God's prerogative. Section. Adoption and justification, not mortification, are the immediate causes of life, vigor, and comfort. In the ways instituted by God to give us life, vigor, courage, and consolation, mortification is not one of the immediate causes of it. They are the privileges of our adoption made known to our souls that give us immediately these things. The Spirit bearing witness with our spirits that we are the children of God. Romans 8, verse 16. Giving us a new name and a white stone, adoption and justification, that is, as to the sense and knowledge of them, are the immediate causes in the hand of the Spirit of these things. But this I say, in the ordinary relationship with God, the vigor and comfort of our spiritual lives depends much on our mortification of sin. In our ordinary walking with God and in an ordinary course of his dealing with us, the vigor and comfort of our spiritual lives depend much on our mortification, not only as causa sine qua non, but as a thing that has an effectual influence thereinto. For, now back to the sine qua non thing, is a necessary cause. Causa sine qua non is a necessary cause. Sorry for the interruption. 4. This alone keeps sin from depriving us of the one and the other. Every unmortified sin will certainly do two things. It will weaken the soul and deprive it of its vigor. It will darken the soul and deprive it of its comfort and peace. It weakens the soul and deprives it of its strength. When David had for a while harbored unmortified lust in his heart, it broke all his bones and left him no spiritual strength. Hence he complained that he was sick, weak, wounded, faint. There is, says he, no soundness in me. Psalm 38, verse 3. I am feeble and sore broken. Verse 8. Yea, I cannot so much as look up. Psalm 40, verse 12. An unmortified lust will drink up the spirit and all the vigor of the soul, and weaken it for all duties. For it untunes and unframes the heart itself by entangling its affections. It diverts the heart from the spiritual frame that is required for vigorous communion with God. It lays hold on the affections, rendering its object beloved and desirable, so expelling the love of the Father. 1 John 2, verse 15, and 3, verse 17, so that the soul cannot say uprightly and truly to God, you are my portion, having something else that it loves. Fear, desire, hope, which are choice affections of the soul that should be full of God, will be one way or other entangled with it. It fills the thoughts with contrivances about it. Thoughts are the great purveyors of the soul to bring in provision to satisfy its affections. And if sin remain unmortified in the heart, they must ever and anon be making provision for the flesh to fulfill the lusts thereof. They must glaze, adorn, and dress the objects of the flesh, and bring them home to give satisfaction. And this they are able to do in the service of a defiled imagination beyond all expression. It breaks out and actually hinders duty. The ambitious man must be studying, and the worldling must be working or contriving, and the sensual, vain person providing himself for vanity, when they should be engaged in the worship of God. Were this my present business to set forth the breaches, ruin, weakness, desolations, that one unmortified lust will bring upon a soul, this discourse must be extended much beyond my intention. As sin weakens, so it darkens the soul. It is a cloud, a thick cloud, that spreads itself over the face of the soul, and intercepts all the beams of God's love and favor. It takes away all sense of the privilege of our adoption, and if the soul begins to gather up thoughts of consolation, sin quickly scatters them, of which afterward. Now, in this regard does the vigor and power of our spiritual life depend on our mortification. It is the only means of the removal of that which will allow us neither the one nor the other. Men that are sick and wounded under the power of lust Men that are sick and wounded under the power of lust make many applications for help. They cry to God when the perplexity of their thoughts overwhelms them. Even to God do they cry, but are not delivered. In vain do they use many remedies. They shall not be healed. So Ephraim saw his sickness, and Judah saw his wound. Hosea 5, verse 13. And attempted sundry remedies. Nothing will do until they come to acknowledge their offense. Verse 15 of Hosea chapter 5. Men may see their sickness and wounds, but yet, if they make not due applications, their cure will not be effected.